All right, I guess I'm doing the intro this week.
You asked.
Yes. So the NFL football is back, everybody, and the first Thursday night game was fucking awful. So, with that out of the way, I'm Dan, and I am joined by.
I'm Antonio Brown, and I'm playing Monday.
No, you're suspended.
No, he's playing Monday.
Oh, okay, now he is. Oh, excuse me.
And I'm Vincent.
No follow-up comment. All right. So, what hauls do we have this week, guys?
Nothing.
I've got two weird things.
Oh my god. He'll only have to talk for 45 minutes.
So I got Marvel Collector's Edition presents Spider-Man #1, or is it Marvel Collector's Edition presents Wolverine? And I got
my god, it's a flip
Game changer.
got this because
you made 4 pages of it for some fucking Wolverine bind.
not Wolverine. Ghost Rider's in it.
Oh shit.
And this is a promotional comic with Charleston Chew. And then also, actually, I don't feel like talking about this right now. It's too much energy.
That's a first.
So that's my haul.
He was so down and ready, and then he was like, this is so boring and uninteresting, I don't want to talk about it.
Well, part of it is that there's like a prop that I could use to enhance it, but it would take a while to find it.
Anyone told you that prop comedy isn't funny and it's never been funny?
What about Carrot Top?
It's never been funny.
In fact, I need to grab
the world's great tragedies.
I need to grab a prop for later in the show, and I'm not sure where that one is either. Sure.
The stuff should have been planned before we came on air, Vince.
And on that note,
oh, okay. Well, I guess since I'm the host, I will be doing the retro issue. Also, I am the resident Iron Man fan of the club. So
can we get a banner on it that says "Resident Iron Man Expert"?
Yeah, this should be flashing across the screen like a news alert. Anyway, yeah, you heard all you new. What'd you say?
I want it flashing so much it gives me epilepsy.
Yeah, so all those new people that joined the club this week can know where they stand.
No one knows where this is. No one knows.
Yeah, no one even watches our show. Anyway, so Iron Man 306. So I actually did not. I actually have not read this issue, so it was really cool to actually sit and read this. I have the single issue, so I actually pulled out the single issue and read it. But yeah, this is from Len Kaminsky's run towards the tail end of his run, and pretty much this whole issue is Tony just basically taking Stark International and wiping it clean and starting over. I guess there's vestigial components of Stain International that are still left over from when Tony eventually got his company back in Iron Man 200, I think it was, around there, because that's when he faced off against Obadiah Stane, and Ironmonger kills himself. Spoiler alert. But yeah, this whole issue is just kind of a whole fresh start for Stark International, kind of just rebooting the whole thing. And I really liked it. I mean, there wasn't a lot of fighting and stuff in this book. Not a lot of like face-offs and stuff like that.
Literally none. There was zero action in this issue.
No, but I liked it because I thought that there was some cool guest appearances of people that I wasn't even sure were even around in the book still, like Bethany Cade and Mrs. Arbogast, the secretary. They're both in there at the end, so it's cool to see some familiar faces. And yeah, I don't know. This is kind of also that there's also a reference to the War Machine by Len Kaminsky, or I don't know who wrote that actually. It's not Len Kaminsky. There's actually references to the War Machine storyline going on at the time with Rhodey, and this is all boiling up towards the Hands of the Mandarin storyline that comes I think like in another 4 issues or so. But I like this issue. I mean, I'm an Iron Man fan, so I kind of liked it. But I'm curious to see what you guys both thought since you're not as huge fans as I am.
I hated this. I hated it because it was talking, and I didn't feel like reading Iron Man's emails because I do that enough at my own job. And reading a speech where it's fully typed out and not even word ballooned is terrible.
Wait, you read your emails? I just delete them.
Yeah.
Not supposed to do that?
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that.
I let Mike jump in first because I feel like I'm slightly in the middle. I thought, I mean, the Kaminsky's writing for Iron Man, for Tony, and the art by Kevin Hopgood when he's allowed to do art things is solid for the era. But this was it was a very weird issue to read out of context, like as a one-off, because I guess it's effectively a bridge issue because this is coming out of the Crash and Burn arc and then moving towards Hands of the Mandarin and everything. Because literally, Iron Man is in suit for 3 pages to blow up his beach house and then pose for the camera. That's it. There's 0 action whatsoever, and you don't see Iron Man until like the 19th page. And then also, again, this is because we read it out of context. There's a scene, it's like a half double-page splash of a bunch of guest appearances. We have Captain America, Hulk, Thunderstrike, the New Warriors, Deathlock, and Venom. And I believe that's all from the Crash and Burn arc. And so is that a flashback? I guess probably in the end of 305 that panel existed, but it's like set up like a dream that he's having because he wakes up. So I don't know if he's like, it's out of context having not read the previous issue. It could come off like this is a dream or a vision he's having rather than a memory that he's having through a dream. It's kind of clunky. Dan, do you know who this Marcy Pearson chick is?
I think Marcy Pearson is like somebody that Rhodey had like relations with, and like I think things went sour, and I mean it seemed like she was implicated with some sort of like stain affiliation, which I'm not
curious if you read stuff with her.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she was in like the Iron Man War Machine like storyline with like Rhodey at the time, because I think she was kind of prodding him with like the whole thing with Tony being dead and like not telling Rhodey that he'd be back and like come back alive and shit like that. I think that's what it was, but I could be wrong. I'll double check that.
And then who's this Abe guy?
Abe he was a like an owner or like I think like a worker for a company that Stark bought that I think like was trying to like actually like sabotage Stark at the time, but then I think they bought the company and then they ended up like making stuff for them. It was weird. It was like back during like the Armor Wars prologue. I think it was. That's when that whole storyline came down.
Yeah, his footnote is Iron Man 219, I believe. So around then, that's pretty way back. Second McLeany run.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, as Mike said, so there's half a page of an email in huge text, and then there's a double-page splash of Tony giving a speech, but like half of the page is filled by 2 giant, huge blocks of text that you're just
like Naomi was somehow worse.
It's very strange. And then there's the War Machine reference, and then in the end, we get the slightest tease for the next arc, which is with the cringy 90s technology villain Vortex. And then it also ends with a footnote to check out the first issue of ForceWorks. I mean, as far as the purpose of like this, retro book slot, it was a pretty interesting like time capsule, but also a pretty terrible issue out of context. in context, I'm sure it's fine. It's like a decompression,
Yeah.
a decompressed bridge issue, but this was not remotely entertaining. Even if you're coming into this, like, obviously Dan knows more of the overall context and everything, and he's gonna like a lot of the stuff regardless. But like, even if you're coming into this issue, like if you saw an Iron Man movie and then this was the first issue you randomly found, like the back issues or like your uncle's closet, it's like this would be a terrible, super boring issue.
Yeah, well, if you saw the Iron Man movie, you're not going to go out and read this anyway, so.
That's true.
Eventually, you might.
No.
We will reveal the next retro book at the end of the show. Now we're moving into a section of indie books.
Listen, if there's one book you read this week, and the one book you should have read this week, as I stare daggers into Vince, but he can't see me staring at him because we're through a webcam, it's Spawn number 300, the milestone of comics. Really, there's no bigger comic that'll come out for the rest of this year. And we got Todd McFarlane writing and inking all of this issue. J. Scott Campbell does interiors. Jason Sean Alexander. Greg Capullo. Scott Snyder writes part of Chapter 2. It's Jerome Pena does pencils in Chapter 5. This is a conglomerate of talent for the milestone of Toddy Daddy's son. And I can't tell you exactly what happens in this because I don't understand any of it. What I can tell you is that it was awesome because we got Greg Capullo pencils over Todd McFarlane inks, and the part where Spawn is fighting Violator, like when after Clown turns into Violator, is one of the best pages I've seen this year. But from what I can decipher from this yarn is that Spawn Al Simmons is revealed that like the timer on Spawn's countdown clock is fully going down, but Al Simmons is with his final showdown with the Violator says that he's always been Spawn and it's not just his little symbiote suit. So Al Simmons, I guess, is back and he has like a new like ashy costume where he just takes like the ash from Violator and like paints himself with it. So he's just always been Spawn and has powers, I guess. We have the Redeemer getting turned into a new Archangel-like figure. We get She-Spawn. Jessica Priest gets transformed into She-Spawn, which is pretty sweet. And at the end of this, monsters are killed, new arcs are forged, and there's a man walking up a hill into a giant cave, and I think it's Cagliostro. So really, it's a celebration of the greatest comic ever made. And we'll never see anything like this again because Todd is the most prolific comic artist to have ever lived. Jack Kirby once said that I wish I could be as great as Todd McFarlane. It's a true story. And the ride will only continue in Spawn 301 on sale October 2nd.
Honestly, this should have came before the retro book. Like, it's that important.
Listen, we could talk about Spawn 300 the rest of the year. Like, every episode, I think we should just talk about a single panel of Spawn 300.
It's almost a shame it came out this late in the year because if it came out in January, we would have had the whole year to talk about it.
Well, really, we do a pick of the week on this show, and the Spawn 300 took a long time to make. It took a couple months to make. So really, the pick of the week for every month it took for Spawn 300 to come out retroactively should have been pick of the week.
True.
Yeah, I didn't read this. I probably
listen, it's okay. You don't read Spawn. Spawn just fuels you.
But yeah, it's big. It is a big deal. It'll be an even big. Arguably, the next issue is way more of a big deal. 301 is when he will pass Cerebus as the longest-running creator-owned comic book in America. But it'll eventually, in like 2-3 years or whenever, there will be a slight distinction and technicality when Eric Larson passes 300 because he actually
written every issue.
Yeah, has written and drawn every issue, whereas Todd took some gaps. The irony of this is that I actually kind of did a bunch of research on Spawn, in my procrastination moments over the week, and
what Vince is saying is he rather post about 90s Ghost Rider at 2 a.m. in a chat that we're in instead of reading Spawn 300. So
yeah,
clearly a man who needs to reevaluate what's essential in life, because if Spawn isn't part of your heart, then I just don't think you're alive.
But basically, I mean, it is kind of interesting Capullo being back because Todd drew the first 15 issues, and then there was actually a straight up, I mean, it still continued a lot of the plot line, but a straight up fill-in arc from 16 to 20 or something, drawn by Greg Capullo, and then Todd's back entirely, and then I think Todd's stops fully drawing the book around 35, and then for actually way longer than I thought, it's Capullo pencils and McFarlane inks. And that doesn't really stop until 100 or something. And then Todd is still involved in writing until I think 150 or so. And then 150 through, and so there's major arcs to Spawn. 1 through 100 is the whole Malbolgia stuff. And then I don't really know what happens from 101 to 149. But then 150 through 164 or something is him. It's the Hell on Earth War or whatever that fuck. His ultimate destiny. And then shortly after that, you had the other version of Spawn. It's Jim Downing or whatever. And then
he shows up in this issue, by the way.
Cool. And then Al Simmons eventually came back. And I think since Al Simmons has been back, McFarlane has been back on the book. And that was I think issue 250.
Well, Al killed himself in, I feel like it was 200. Or maybe it was 100.
No, I think it was 175.
Okay.
So McFarlane, I think, was involved in a major way, at least, from 100 to 150. And then I think he may have taken a gap. Well, I don't know.
It's not important. Let's press on.
But it's pretty cool. Major accomplishment. I'm actually, I'm every time Spawn kind of gets some pop in mainstream buzz, I'm yeah, I should go read those first 100 issues.
You really shouldn't.
And now I'm getting ever closer, but I had the very dangerous thought earlier of maybe I shouldn't read them digitally. Maybe I shouldn't even get those Spawn Origins trades. Maybe I should buy 100 issues of Spawn and custom bind them.
But custom bind them out of order. Just call it your Spawn bus.
No, it would be perfect. And I gotta get interlace the Angela miniseries, the Violator miniseries.
But actually, the weirdest thing about this issue is they reference Angela.
They do. That's weird.
Well, yeah, I guess they can. Do they say her name?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, that's strange. I mean, I get. Yeah, I mean,
Todd doesn't give a fuck.
Well,
copyright.
There's nothing illegal. He just can't show. They don't show her, right?
No.
He can't show her within the book, and obviously he can't put her name on the cover of the book or name a book after her. But that is interesting. I mean, technically, I don't know if Marvel could reference Rom, but I think Marvel's just more conservative. So if Rom ever came up, they would be the Space Knight.
Space Knight.
But and then the other example, I mean, you brought up Jessica Priest. Jessica Priest was introduced. I think she was introduced in the comics, but she was introduced around when the movie was coming out because he had to retcon her as the killer of Al Simmons, because the original killer was Chapel from Youngblood, and as Liefeld for a period left Image, and then just all the founders kind of drifted away from having a shared universe. Todd was like, yeah, let's not have Chapel in Spawn's backstory. And he couldn't use him in the movie, even if he was cool with Rob at the time.
That's why I think he made his boss in the movie.
But yeah, Spawn 300, major accomplishments, major props to Todd. And I don't know, this is like as cool as it's going to get until Savage Dragon hits 301.
I was going to say, like, Spawn, this has been the coolest Spawn has been since, like, issue 1.
Well, yeah, I mean 100 or something like that, but
Talk about Berserker Unbound.
Yes. Berserker Unbound number 2, Jeff Lemire, Mike Deodato. So the Berserker, he's hanging out with this homeless man, and they obviously can't understand each other because this guy's is a 10,000-year-old barbarian, so they don't speak the whole language. And that miscommunication is kind of like annoying in a certain sense, but it's not too bad. And it really is what drives the plot. It turns out they're not really like in a Central Park type thing, not like a park in the middle of the city. They're in some like woods overlooking the city, and so the miscommunication causes the old man to take the Berserker into town. They go to a food bank to eat, and then he goes right to the liquor store, and the Berserker thinks they're going to a rune master to reopen the portal to his time so that he can avenge his dead wife and children, and then realizes that he's just hanging out with this alcoholic homeless man. But then, like, he doesn't have a choice, and then the issue just ends. I'm probably going to drop this book. It's like, this is the second issue. Nothing's happened. I don't know that they necessarily intended for there to be action of this Berserker in modern day, but there's no action whatsoever. And the other thing I really need to point out is that there are several pages where there's like these pointless grid layouts over single images or limited images, and it's like they're definitely supposed to be like different panels essentially, or it's just entirely pointless grid on top of the page. And sometimes you can use that to show like a passage of time with little action happening or very quick movement or other things, but they serve absolutely no mechanical purpose here. And of course, I think Deodato is drawing like digital at this point for the most part. And
it looks very digital.
So they're just like popping weird grids down on top of the pages, and they serve really no purpose. It's not aesthetically pleasing. I don't understand it at all. It's really dumb. So that, yeah, I'm not going to continue with this book, and it's not terrible. It's not my thing.
All right, Buffy the Vampire Slayer number 8 from Boom, Jordi Belair and David Lopez. I'm still being hypercritical of David Lopez's faces. When I can't tell Buffy is Buffy on the page, that's a huge problem. But it's a Halloween issue. Buffy and Xander are at the Halloween party, and Buffy is dressed up like a bat, but her bat costume is terrible because it has a tail and amongst other things, so people don't know if she's a cat, a dog, or something else. So they're just enjoying the party as she's kind of out on patrol, making things don't go bad. Because in the Buffy universe, normally on Halloween, all the demons don't do anything, but it's October 28th here, so they're not fully in the clear. While Giles and Jenny Calendar are at Buffy's mother's Egyptian art exhibit at the museum, the dagger that opens the Hellmouth is on display, and Drusilla and Spike come to steal it, and they obtain it, and then the Hellmouth begins to open up, and they're also wondering where the hell Willow is, and she's practicing dark magic at her house. So she might also be playing a part in the Hellmouth opening as we approach the Hellmouth Buffy Angel event. And I think there was one moment here where Angel in a mask comes to talk to Buffy. It looks like Angel, but I'm not fully sure. So this might be their first meeting here. But yeah, this is all prelude to the Hellmouth crossover event that starts later this month. Well, officially starts in October with Hellmouth number 1, but Buffy number 8 and Angel number 5 are both listed as preludes to this. I just wish David Lopez's art was better because the faces are really, really bad.
Didn't he draw some of Kelly Sue DeConnick's Captain Marvel or something?
I don't know.
That name's kind of familiar.
I know the name's familiar, but yeah, I don't know.
Next, Sea of Stars #3 from Aaron Hallam and Stephen Byrne. And the coloring here also, I want to say, I think Frank Martin is really fantastic. So it continues kind of the dual plot lines where you have the son, Caden, who's just having fun doing insane feats in space. It's all space, like it's all like nonsense space mumbo jumbo stuff, so none of it makes sense. But he tries to play tag with a giant space shark. Jason Aaron seems to be really into space sharks, and the shark bites him, and his like alien companions think that he just got his arm chopped off, but it tickles him, and he's like, "That's not how you play tag. Let me show you." And then punches this space shark so hard that it turns it into a comet or something. And so he's just having fun. And meanwhile, his dad is still facing insane shit, trying to get to his son, but like having a like kind of no fucks given attitude. There's a cool panel where he like punches the shit out of the annoying robot that's been bossing him around. And then the kid, Caden, runs into this like worshiper dude who thinks he's a chosen one. And then there's a one-page epilogue with like the space shark stuff, and it doesn't make any sense to me. But this book still very fun, very attractive. Both the characters are very, very entertaining in different ways, and there are like the like minor characters around them. Caden's 2 alien buddies, and then the father's like robot companion, as well as the silent like giant alien Venus flytrap. It's all pretty entertaining, and the art is just absolutely beautiful. I enjoyed this issue. I've enjoyed all of them so far. We'll see how the plot actually wraps up, but this is, I mean, I'm not reading a ton of indie books actively, but I think this might be my favorite one. I'm not sure. Well, besides Criminal.
I'm gonna say you just dropped one, so
Yeah, no, Berserker Unbound not up there.
I'm reading 2 books, and my favorite one is this one.
So the indie section is over. Now we move into DC, which has some interesting releases this week. And I'm going to talk about Doomsday Clock number 11. So off the bat, in this issue, Alfred is reading Rorschach's journal, and Lex Luthor, looking totally human-like, is talking to Lois. Both of those things are happening in this series that takes place a year after current continuity, even though the final issue of this series will likely be exactly a year late, if not more.
Gary Frank on Twitter said that November is when a 12 should come out. That's optimistic, as 12 is supposed to be an oversized issue.
Yeah, I don't necessarily trust that it'll come out when he says it is. And also, I believe December would make it 12 months late. So if it slips just like a week or two, this last issue will be an entire year late. Which I actually I need to double check that, because I feel like it's more than a year late, but who knows. But yeah, again, Alfred totally alive here, and again, we'll see as Batman goes on. I'm pretty sure his fate in the Batman series is probably a fake out. But Lex Luthor being totally normal and human, hanging out with Lois Lane, definitely conflicts with the next book we're going to talk about, or at least explicitly puts an impermanence on things that are happening elsewhere. It's so weird.
Does Superman fight Dr. Manhattan?
No. So honestly, there's like all kinds of it seems like there's all kinds of shit happening in this issue, but really nothing happens at all. Most of the Earth's heroes are on Mars, I guess. Still, honestly, I don't really remember how the last issue ended, because it probably came out like 4 months ago or whatever. It was probably like episode 3
half a year ago.
but they were on Mars, and Gary Frank was like trying to do his best impression of George Perez from like those like crisis scenes where they've all been gathered by Harbinger. But most of them are still on Mars now, or maybe Dr. Manhattan killed them all or transported them all somewhere. We don't see any of them though. Black Adam is rising up like his group of villains, and he's presented as terrorists. Wonder Woman is still on Earth fighting, and the Flash Museum gets burned down after Barry just rebuilt it in current continuity. There's also a Planet Krypton reference, which of course originally a Kingdom Come thing, but I think isn't that totally like a normal DC thing now? Didn't Tom King use one?
There's a Bat Burger. I don't know anything about a Planet Krypton existing.
Okay. Well, it was a Batman themed restaurant, not a like.
Yeah, it was like a Batman themed McDonald's.
Okay. And so it turns out that Lex saw the hug from Rebirth between Wally and Barry, which is kind of a big deal, kind of not. And
it'd be a big deal if, any of that still mattered.
Yeah. He finds a photo near that hug when Wally kind of, fixed the timeline and everything to an extent for him, just himself. And these photos are of Dr. Manhattan in his human form, and he keeps finding these
from the fair, right?
Yeah, he keeps finding these photos, but like with Dr. Manhattan in like suits from different eras. So it's like the exact same photo, but like 20 versions of it from different decades. And so they're like chronal anomalies. And Black Adam Squad shows up in the White House lawn to kill the president or abduct the president. And based on certain things, it's like totally clear that it's Donald Trump because, it is set in the present. But they don't show him remotely. He's not explicitly referenced, which granted is probably the smart way to do it, especially, whatever. And then Superman shows up to stop Black Adam. And then Saturn Girl has her conversation with Ozymandias. And Ozymandias is like, she's like, I exist, blah, blah. The future exists because of Superman. Superman's the hero, blah, blah. And Ozymandias is like, yeah, but Superman doesn't remember who you are. And she just disappears into dust while trying to say, long live the Legion. She just gets out long live and then turns into dust with her ring on the ground. And that freaks out Johnny Thunder, who starts like yelling. And Ozymandias tells Johnny Thunder, quit crying, old man. The past won't be erased. And I don't really understand the message here. It's obviously it's from Veight's perspective, who's like kind of villainous, but also in this series, he's kind of not. And so I don't know if this is Jeff Johns speaking, if this is Veidt speaking, if this is supposed to represent like Dan DiDio and or Jeff Johns himself. It's very strange because it's like Saturn Girl, no one remembers you, you don't matter. And of course, complicated by the fact this entire thing, as we will get into in literally the next two books we're talking about, this entire issue complicated by the fact that this commentary on the Justice Society and the Legion, they're back and they're fine the exact same week. And it doesn't align at all. So I don't understand the message here, if there is one. And then literally,
it's Gary Frank. You should have gotten your issues done faster.
No, 100% agreed. But also, Jeff Johns, this book is totally unnecessary, doesn't make sense, and whatever we thought it was going to be, whatever he presented it as being, 11 issues in, it's not that. So literally on the final page of issue 11, Superman and Manhattan come face to face, and Dr. Manhattan also is wearing underwear. So fuck this whole series. I'm going to read the final issue, and apparently it's oversized. We'll see what actually happens. And there's no way this can end well, because the original goal of it has already been accomplished. I mean, I would think the original goal would be to, my original goal would be to entirely restore pre-Flashpoint continuity, but we know DC is not going to do that. And so, the Justice Society and the Legion, which were on the wraparound, like alternate first cover, or actually, no, that was the Rebirth cover. That's already been fulfilled by people not named Jeff Johns. So there's no point to this series, and it's just damaging the reputation of Watchmen. And we're gonna probably end up stuck with fucking Rorschach 2 in the DC universe.
Oh yeah, I completely forgot about Rorschach 2. Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah, it's nothing happens.
I haven't read it since past issue 1, so, and I liked that issue 1, but it was definitely, we'll see how this goes, and massive delays plus you saying nothing happens are not good.
Nothing happens, but the issues also take like 30 minutes to read because they're really dense, but nothing happens. Okay, so first part of books that do not align with this, or just are getting ahead of it. Justice League number 31. In the last issue, we had basically 3 sections of the Justice League. You had a section back staying at the Hall of Justice. We had a section going, and then 2 sections going through hyper time, one to the past, one to the future. The past, it's Barry Allen and John Stewart. They run into the JSA, and they're like, we've never heard of superheroes from the 1940s. And the JSA are like, somehow our existence has been erased from history. So this is presenting, it's kind of unclear because at first I'm like, okay, this has to be an Earth 2 thing. But now it does seem that it's a hyper time thing, and this is actually the past. And at least the Justice Society seems to assume that these Justice League people should be from their future. So I'm not clear how this is going to shake out, whether it's going to be a more Earth 1, Earth 2 setup, or if it's going to be restored partially through, retcon.
I would say using hypertime is probably as clever as you could get trying to say and work a solution through this, though.
Yeah. But then there's a fun scene where Jay Garrick is like, I think we should introduce ourselves. And they all shout off their names, and we're the Justice Society of America. And the Flash and Green Lantern point out, hey, that's a duplicate Hawkman, that's probably a duplicate Dr. Fate, and there's a few more duplicates that aren't quite as much of a duplicate. And Hawkman has a cool moment where he freaks out and is like, what do you know about Shira Hall? So as things shake out, it'll be very interesting to see how they handle certain things here, especially Hawkman. And then Barry makes a note. He's like, every time I look at this Flash, Jay Garrick, it's like there's like an echo of memories. Like there's no memory, but it's like a phantom memory that they have a history together. So it definitely seems that this may shake out as a re-retcon kind of post-crisis shared Earth, different eras thing. But obviously some of that has been tampered with and erased.
And then they go to Pearl Harbor.
Yeah. And also Flash says, this is the first JLA JSA team up, which is funny, meta moment. And then it's Pearl Harbor Day, and they're in Pearl Harbor. So that should be interesting in the next issue. In the future, they're hanging out with Commandy and fighting some Brainiac robots. And for various reasons, the future part a little less interesting to me. They learn that Brainiac is like bottling pieces of hypertime, which is kind of the exact premise of Convergence, which is sort of weird. And then the future gets actually interesting because the Justice Legion from DC 1 Million show up, including my prop right here.
I was going to say, I told him to get him the. Like, I gave you the tip off that this happened.
And then the very end of the issue, the last page gets really weird because Aquaman is a traitor. And the thing is, because of like different artists and constantly changing status quos and Scott Snyder's insanity, I don't know if this is just straight up, normal Aquaman, whose book I also read right now, or if this is like Aquaman 1,000,000, which I don't remember what he was like, or this is like past Aquaman, future Aquaman, who the hell knows? But some version of Aquaman is a traitor and working with Lex. This is pretty crazy. I really enjoyed this issue. This issue kind of came together where it's like, honestly, it's still a cover band, but it honestly does feel like a pretty good approximation of Grant Morrison.
Yeah, especially when you get into the moments where like the JSA and Barry and John are on the beaches of Hawaii as Pearl Harbor is ready to happen, and we cut to Gorilla Grodd, Cheetah, and Sinestro piloting Japanese planes, literally getting ready to also bombard the aircraft carriers on Pearl Harbor. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, and then obviously when the 1,000,000 stuff came in, it's like, okay, he's really leaning into Grant Morrison's footsteps.
But this is fun though, and I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, I love it. This is really cool. There's also like, I didn't really touch on it, but there's stuff building with like the home team where Hawkgirl and Shane, is his name Shane?
Yeah, I'm guessing it's S.H.A.I.L.D.
Yeah, the Hawkgirl and Martian Manhunter's like hyper time child. They're trying to take an alternate route and like figure out where Lex is, and they do figure out, and they're also taking a ship to go try and find the Anti-Monitor. Yeah, this is pretty great. This is very high stakes stuff.
And into a book where I don't know what the hell happened. Which is Legion of Superheroes Millennium #1. It's 2 issues by Brian Michael Bendis and a slew of artists: Jim Lee, Dustin Nguyen, Andrea Sorrentino, Andre Lima Arroyo, and then like 4 inkers. Which is supposed to be the big reintroduction of the Justice Society back into DC continuity. The problem here is the Justice Society don't show up at all in this. It's all about Rose and Thorn, which is, I'm guessing, connecting to the Action Comics story with Rose and Thorn. We open with Rose and Thorn kind of going throughout her history with Superman, and Jim Lee draws the opening like 2 pages. Well, more than that. Just the opening sequence with and she's talking to future Supergirl, who's the president of the United States, and the drug she needs to keep her mental stability in check is gone. And then we cut to her throughout history, as Thorn, and we see the Batman Beyond the future, Come On D, and I don't know what she's doing. She's just running to try to get these items. Like one of them's the Superman costume. And then I'm guessing we end in the year 3000 when she's trying to get her drugs again and she's denied and she's then chased by future police. And then as she gets on a motorbike, it says next stop Legion. I don't know what the hell this was, but it was bad because if this is supposed to be a Legion story and the Legion don't show up at all in it, why did this be 2 issues? I saw Bendis say that, I'm so happy we got to extend this to 2 issues because it's such a big story. Well, evidently it didn't need to be, because if your main title characters that you're reintroducing into the universe don't appear on the page at all in this 2-issue relaunch, it's pointless. So this was terrible. And one of the worst books I've read in a really long time.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo Mike, I mean, I read this issue on a whim, and
I'm sorry that you had to read this because I thought this was going to be something different. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I don't know if it was just the fact that I wasn't familiar with the characters, or the fact that it was just a bad story, but I think it's a mix of both. I mean, there's just not a lot in here to get me excited about whatever the next part of this whole story is going to be. I mean, I don't understand what's going on half the time. So yeah.
Yeah, I don't. It just trust me, it's bad, bud.
If there was ever an anti-pick of the week, this would be it.
So I think my understanding is that despite the fact that this series is called Legion of Superheroes Millennium, I think the premise for these two issues is kind of like Bendis, like just throwing spaghetti at the wall with various future timelines at DC. So that's where you get like the Commandi and Batman Beyond, and I think there's going to be OMAC stuff and like all that kind of crap. So maybe some of it is like misleading title and marketing, but yeah, I mean it doesn't sound super interesting regardless.
Can we get a video of Bendis throwing spaghetti against the wall? I want to see that. That would be more entertaining than reading this issue.
So the Superman costume thing is, I give Bendis slight props for that. That's referencing Commandi number 29 from Jack Kirby, where the Superman costume still exists after the Great Disaster in the future, and it's like this fabled item. But if there's nothing to it, it doesn't matter.
It's bad. It's terrible. Am I taking Lois Lane or are you taking Lois Lane?
I didn't read it.
Oh, well, then I'm taking it. Any of the people who agree. Hey, I mean, this is probably my pick of the week. Rucka and Perkins still on this book. Superman has shown up to try to help investigate the murder that happened at the end of the last issue with the contact Lois was meeting, and she kind of shoos Superman away because he's kind of just making it known and complicating the work that Montoya and her are trying to do, as Lois is like furthering trying to prove that she doesn't always need Superman watching over her. And him showing up only creates more of a media circus after the kiss they had in public. There was a fun moment though where like Superman like does come back after like Lois is walking with Montoya, and she's like shouting into the air, and she's like, "Oh no, I'm not shouting at you. I'm shouting because I know he can hear me." That was pretty good. But Superman does come back, and he takes her for a flight as they kind of make up there. And then the question Renee Montoya heads back to the apartment in Chicago. I'm sorry, the hotel in Chicago that I believe it's the Drake, where Lois is staying at to investigate, and she gets into a fight with the Question. And not only like it, I enjoyed this because it's Vic Sage versus Renee Montoya, and they kind of have a fun standoff where they both go, well, this is awkward, and Montoya even calls Vic Sage Charlie, which his real name is Charles Victor Zsasz, from the 80s miniseries by Dennis O'Neil. That was really, really awesome. And she was just like, I thought you were dead. And he's like, yeah, I know. Too many questions. So I don't care how he's back, but I really, really enjoy this. Also, props for the fact that he's in the blue trench coat, hat, and pants with the yellow shirt and blue tie. He's been more in the kind of a Rorschach-esque look in the other books. So this is like the first time like I've actually seen him the way he should look in the blue. But Lois and Superman have a talk on the roof, and they kind of make peace with each other. And Lois is going to go back to the hotel and take care of some things. Superman has some stuff to Metropolis, but they're going to meet up back at the Drake. As Lois is getting ready to take a shower, she thinks Superman is already in the shower waiting for her, opens up the door, but no, it's Jonathan Kent, aged up Superboy. So this must be the first time they see each other when he got aged up, and I kind of hate this.
Sounds fun.
That's a little weird.
Did not expect Jonathan Kent to show up in this book.
No. Much less in the shower, as his mom is almost season naked.
What the hell? That sounds a little Oedipus complex to me.
Well, no, she thinks it's Superman in the shower.
Oh, okay. All right. So moving into Marvel, we get into. Oh, sorry, I'm on camera here. I gotta adjust my camera. Anyway, so we get into Alpha Flight, True North. This is like I guess a one shot, right?
Very 80th anniversary one shots.
Cool. Can't wait, guys. Everyone's favorite Canadian team, Alpha Flight. So there's 3 stories in this book: Mired in the Past, Monsters, and Illegal Guardians. The first one has Snowbird and Talisman, pretty much just like going through this abandoned town, and pretty much the end of the issue, Snowbird meets her mortal father, who I didn't know that she didn't know who her father was or whatever. So that was kind of cool, I guess. Yeah, I mean that story I think is probably like my least favorite of the 3. The second one is his name Puck,
Yes.
Yes.
and then who's the green woman again?
Marina.
Marina. Okay, so they're walking on the beach. I guess they just got done with a mission, and they go walking on the beach, and Puck shares a story with her from like the 1940s during World War II, where he was tasked to hunt down these like creatures in the in the water and stuff like that. And this woman finds out that these creatures were actually the same race that she is, and it kind of Puck kind of just admits that like this is something that he did in the past, and he feels bad about it, but he wanted to tell her, and they kind of just like I guess they're a couple. I wasn't even aware of that until the end here, and she kind of comments a little bit about this like crazy like race of animals that she is descendant from, and how she can control who she is and not what she is. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then they kind of walk off in the distance. The third story is the Vindicator, I guess. Is that his name? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Guardian, Vindicator.
Yeah, I kind of interchange them sometimes. But I guess the Vindicator's wife and daughter are reading a bedtime story when they're attacked by this group of like mercenaries. They fend off the mercenaries, and the actual Vindicator or Guardian, whatever you want to call him, he shows up and kind of saves the day, and he takes the wife and kid up to this like sanctuary up in British Columbia, where they're safe. And turns out that they're staying here and being safe, but it's all an actual illusion that he's projecting, kind of like Mysterio from the the what do you call from the new Spider-Man movie Far From Home. So
I mean, Spider-Man Far From Redacted.
yes, Far From Redacted. So that's a little weird that he would do that to his family, but because he's still working for what's the name of that company? Department H. I'm sorry, Department H headquarters. So overall, I think I like the Vindicator story the best, followed by the middle story and the last. The first one was not that good. I don't really know a lot about those characters, so I wasn't really like invested that much about it. But the other two, I thought like they were just overall better stories. So, did anyone else read this or no?
No, I meant to. And then
You said that Alpha Flight is everyone's favorite Canadian team. I'm sorry. Edmonton Oilers.
Yeah, they're a better team.
Well, not now, but
They were.
yeah, in the 80s.
Who's buying John Burns Alpha Flight omnibus?
I have the trades, so no.
Talk to us about Spider-Man growing big. I mean, getting big.
Growing big.
Spider-Man Extends.
That sounds like something else. Okay. So Amazing Spider-Man Going Big is a very underwhelming story. I will pretty much just
All
say
three of them?
What?
All three of them?
What do you mean all 3 of them?
There's 3 stories in here.
Is there?
Yes.
What are you talking about? Oh shit. I did not even know that. Wow. Excuse me.
All right, talking about the first one, I guess.
For some reason,
Did you stop and said the end?
I did not know. I thought I was done because I scrolled down and I guess it wasn't loaded, so I thought that was the end of the story. I guess I'll just Wow, guys, we plan out this show. I swear we do. So yeah, I this is not me sabotaging my reading schedule this week. I honestly, legitimately
You
thought.
had like 4 books. You didn't even read one of them.
Anyway, I'll just read this first one. You guys can talk about the other two. Art by Mark Bagley. Always great to see his art. I would say this art is probably better than the art that we saw in
Without a doubt.
with
Yeah, it's a lot better than Life Story.
Yeah, so better coloring, I think, too. It's pretty much just a story with this villain called Coyote, who
He's in Mark Waid's Daredevil run.
yes, as a reference here in a footnote. But yeah, he pretty much kidnaps Mary Jane's cousin, and the issue is pretty much just Peter kind of tracking down where to find this chick, and he finds her in the end, and we get a tease towards the Punisher kind of showing up and shooting all these people that Spider-Man webbed up and reported to the police.
But Dan, why does the Punisher show up?
Because I forget.
Issue was by who?
Oh, by Jerry Conway.
Yeah, Jerry Conway.
Hey, that's right. First appearance. He wrote the first appearance of. He created the Punisher, right?
Yes.
Okay, that makes sense. So that's all I can contribute for this book because my dumbass forgot to read the other two stories. So I apologize.
You didn't miss much.
Yeah.
The Eric Larson story, which I didn't care for. I can take. Vince, did you read this? Yes or no?
Yeah.
All right, I'll let you take Eric Larson. I'll take the Ralph Macchio story with the Todd Knock arc. This felt like a story that you would have seen in like Web of Spider-Man, but like not super long. Spider-Man just battles a giant robot, and then he remembers that when you're cornered, remember to punch a bully in the face because that's what Uncle Ben taught him to do. And then he punches the robot in the face, and he beats the robot. And
Nice.
something about ice cream's good. Yeah, that's bad. This is terrible.
Jeez. Yeah, so the Conway story was strange because it's using a Daredevil villain from a bit ago and seems to be set shortly after that. So this is set like 5 years ago. It's kind of strange. But do you guys know who Christy Watson is? Besides the obvious that they probably, tell you exactly who she is. But have you ever seen Christy Watson in a comic book before this?
No.
So she's Mary Jane's cousin, and for the most part hasn't been seen since 1992. So very strange to show up in this issue. And then that story was like about illegal immigration or something. It's kind of strange.
Yeah, it was about sex trafficking.
Then freaking Eric Larson draws a story. I was really expecting him to be the main story, the biggest story. But whatever. Spider-Man is fighting werewolves led by a villain who looks straight out of Savage Dragon.
Yeah.
It's chick with like cow print, like bikini and cowboy boots and a hat. And there's a little bit of nice dialogue which you can interpret as a meta, where Larson's like, "Yeah, I'm back. I know you were waiting for me." There's a science major joke here, which is very funny for us because that's one of our Spider-Man memes. And the issue ends with Peter going on a date with MJ, and he forgot the tickets, which allows for a final splash page of swinging through the city. But this brings up, like, when does this take place? What's the continuity? Because MJ has straight hair and refers to Peter as her boyfriend. So, but the boyfriend thing stood out to me first. So I was thinking, okay, this could be any time. This could be during Larson's run, thanks to the retcon of One More Day, since they never technically got married. But the straight hair seems to imply that it's pre-McFarlane era. So
she has a face too.
It may be it's probably pre-wedding, but it can't be. It has to be pretty far back from pre-wedding because he's wearing red and blue. It depends. There's a few places you could put this. But I don't know. I was hoping, I'd get 20 pages of Eric Larson on Spider-Man, but there were pages which were really, really cool.
I thought these pages were pretty rough. Mainly MJ, her head is as large as her torso, which is bad.
Okay, but that first splash page, the last splash page, and the double page splash,
No,
they're pretty awesome.
the proportions are bad all over. Not the greatest work from Eric Larson.
I was jumping for joy, but that's going big.
Rose tinted glasses, sir.
And the next issue, House of X #4, continuing to actually do things.
Yeah, we have X-Men action in this.
But it's kind of weird. So Charles is able to communicate with the people on the space station by like mind melding with like 10 characters on Krakoa, and then has like a mental projection hologram of Jean's giant face, which I don't know why that part is necessary. You can just telepathically communicate with her, but it was a kind of cool moment. And his like emphasis on like 10 of us, I was like, is this a tease for the 12? But back on the Master Mold base, or the Mother Mold base, Archangel and Husk just died off panel between issues. Well, at the end of the last issue. And Nightcrawler has near fatal wounds, and Wolverine's really screwed up. So they have to trigger these 4 sectors, these 4 collars, which have the Mother Mold head attached. It's kind of like a video game. You got to press the 4 buttons. Logan and Nightcrawler are successful. Then Cyclops is successful. But Mystique gets sent out the airlock. So she's also dead. And M whips out Penance, which was pretty cool. That was like a Generation X moment.
All back.
And then I don't remember that it's really shown or told on page, but I think you're supposed to assume that she dies, of course. And then they're like, well, we're fucked. We don't know what to do. And just got to get it done. So Nightcrawler teleports himself and Wolverine out into the middle of space. And I'm not entirely sure what Wolverine actually does, but somehow he's able to, complete the final part. And so the Mother Mold head crashes into the sun. So they win the day, which adds Nightcrawler and Wolverine to the death count. And that leaves Cyclops and Jean. Cyclops gets shot in the head, and then Jean dies. And everyone back on Krakoa is very upset. And it was, I guess, exciting, and again, it's part 4 of 12, but I don't know what the fuck happened, like, in a meta sense, where you go next, because you just killed all the interesting characters. All the ones I care about. Bye-bye. Obviously going to be reversed in some way, especially since almost all of these characters are on covers for books coming out in like 2 months.
The foreign characters.
So maybe this is the 6th. You know what? Maybe this is more of a 6th life. That's my guess.
That's probably a pretty good theory.
But other than the fact that everyone fucking died, it was an entertaining issue.
It was nice to get back to seeing some X-Men action instead of just the scenes being played out and introducing us to the players.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're going to talk about it. I don't think this is bad.
Well, it's not executed bad.
No.
Or badly.
I think with Hickman, when we sit back and have the full first picture of essentially you got to look at every work he does in an act. This is the Act 1. When Act 1 is done, we'll have a much clearer and probably appreciative picture of what happens. But I'm kind of done saying that because I feel like we do this every single time we talk about an issue of this. But still good nonetheless.
And Act 1 is going to cost you, $60+ or whatever.
Well, how many issues? Well, let's say he writes 12. I mean, 12 issues of the regular X-Men title, plus he's co-writing New Mutants. 12. It's still going to cost you money at the end of the day. I look at it as you're getting 12 issues weekly and not having to wait monthly for this to come out. So I feel like it's a win-win scenario. Anywho, Immortal Hulk number 23, and I spoke in Acts. Issue 25 of Immortal Hulk is being teased as being something very big. And the way this issue goes, it feels like issue 25 is going to lead to the big final finale of the first culmination of what Al Ewing was trying to say with this first title. It very much feels like we're building towards a big conclusion. As we have members of Alpha Flight, the Hulk, the Red Harpy, the Doc Samson, the kind of reanimated corpse of Rick Jones, all fighting Shadow Base and General 14. I'd say the heroes pull ahead here, as they're overtaking Shadow Base and winning. As Rick Jones is kind of now leading this onslaught, they're freeing the one gamma, the gamma coded guy that all the way back from like the very first arc of this series. With the doctors, they're sparing the doctors, but or at least that's the way it was implied. But the fight that's going on is anything but pretty, as 14 is like, he brings in these giant like mechs with just sunlight beams on them to try to weaken the Hulk. So Alpha Flight has to pull those off them so the Hulk can get back into the fight. So we got more crazy Joe Bennett body horror, and all the players are then kind of taken out, we're left with 14, some soldiers, and the Hulk, who the Hulk is pretty much just says you're a second-rate everything, and the Hulk is the Hulk, and I'm never going to change. And then he gets acid squirted in his face from the new abomination, which has molded itself to General 14. And as the Hulk is like pulling away the acid, kind of crusted all over his face, we finally, I believe, for the first time in this book, says, as the eternal thoughts are, no one's ever been able to plan for the Hulk, and Hulk says Hulk smash for the first time. So we're very much nearing the end of this first culmination, and I think it's been a very, very fun and very, very cool ride, seeing all the different aspects of the Hulk centered around. And I think finally getting that Hulk smash moment here as we're nearing the culmination is really, really cool, and I'm enjoying it. I know you guys will read this in trade when it's all said and done, but really, really just a beautifully well done book as we head into the crescendo of building up to issue 25. But it's not ending. There's more to come.
And that heads us into the crescendo of this episode of the show. That is all the books we were talking about this week. It was a fun week of various
Later.
Yeah, relatively. And our retro book for next week is going to be Hellblazer number 40 from April 1991 from the creative team of Jamie Delano and Dave McKean.
Oh, I didn't know Delano was still on it 40 issues in.
It's his final issue.
Wow.
So that should be exciting to talk about. And there will be various other books. I don't think there are any 300s or 1000s next week. But
looking at it, it's a pretty big week for Marvel and DC.
Fun. So tune in next time to see what we think of whatever that stuff is. Bye-bye. I almost clicked the wrong button again.